All right, I think that's enough time to get everyone in and get set up and get connected. I think we'll get things started. So, thanks for coming, everyone. We've got some good insights we've gathered for you all to clarify the relatively new heat illness regulations for businesses with locations in California. And we have the experts to help you understand what the regulations state and how to effectively adhere to them as a multi-site facility operator. My name is Kyle Burt. I'm the Director of Marketing at MISA, and I will be your mediator. Quick housekeeping notes. Yes, we are recording this. Yes, it will be shared after the fact. And yes, please ask questions in the Q&A box in your Zoom window, and let us know if you have any trouble doing that. So with that, let's jump into it. So the speakers that we have joining us today, first is Eric Compere, who serves as the co-lead of Nixon Peabody's Occupational Safety and Health Administration practice. He defends clients in OSHA-related administrative proceedings and in federal and state court litigation. He formerly held the position of attorney at the California division of OSHA. So given that, he's bringing lots of knowledge on this topic for our attendees. Thank you for joining us, Eric.
Thank you. A pleasure being here.
And next we have Zach Green. Zach is MISA's co-founder and COO, bringing years of experience of energy management for multi-site commercial buildings, and is a lifetime student of sustainability and green technology and initiatives. So heck, his last name is even green, so he was born for this stuff. So let's get right into the topic. Zach, why don't you kick it off for us and give us an intro on MISA HQ?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I'm happy to be here and represent MISA HQ today. I often like to tell people when I describe MISA HQ is that we are a reliable partner for smarter facilities. And I like to say partner because we review our relationship with our customers as more than just selling connected thermostats or refrigeration sensors. We're often the go-to source or a trusted advisor for addressing various challenges or issues our customers have. And one challenge we've heard repeatedly from our multi-site customers, particularly in California, is understanding the new California heat illness regulation that came into effect last year, and then turnkey solutions for meeting compliance. So that's why we wanted to put together this webinar today, and I'm super happy that Eric's here to join me to explain more on the legal side, and I'm here to talk about the tools and solutions for meeting compliance.
Great. Thank you, Zach. So let's start at the top. Eric, why don't you give us an intro on what the rules actually state? So what are we talking about here?
Sure, Kyle. Again, thanks everyone for having me. I am going to go briefly over the rule. The heat illness rule for indoors was a long time coming in California. As everyone may be aware, California has been enforcing outdoor heat for quite a while. This is really a data-driven rule, and what I mean by that, it is the obligations are triggered by certain thresholds and data points. So this applies to all indoor workplaces when it can reach 82 degrees, irrespective of humidity, just your flat temperature when employees are present. As soon as that gets triggered, you have to have procedures for provision of water. You need to provide cool down areas, training, acclimatization, and basically just have yourself a written program together with all of these requirements. There are no exceptions, and there's sort of no really timing provisions. What I mean, if your AC goes out and it goes up to 80 degrees, you're within the standard. So you kind of have to be prepared for the unexpected in order to remain in compliance. And then there's a second tier of requirements that come in when your heat index or regular temperature reaches 87 degrees. Again, you have to be able to monitor in real time these conditions so you know when these added requirements come in. These requirements include engineering controls, administrative controls, and potentially personal protective equipment. The key here is you can't rely on your normal thermostat in most workplaces to secure the temperature. The reason this is they don't measure the temperature where the work is taking place. So if you take a retail location, for instance, it may be very cool up front, but your stockroom may be getting hot. You may have a loading dock that's a different temperature, and you need some way to harness the data so you can demonstrate what the temperature is and what the exposures are throughout your workplace. You can think of a restaurant with a kitchen. You're going to have different environments with potential different regulatory impacts throughout your business. And this does matter. For instance, the provision of water. You think you're inside, you got your water cooler up in the office. That's great, but you have to have the water as close as practicable to the exposure. So when you're looking at multiple environments, this may impact where you have to put your water cooler or where you think about where you have to place fans. So it really takes what you would consider one workspace and creates a dynamic environment in which you're going to have to monitor in real time various exposures to heat as they fluctuate throughout the workplace.
Wow, a lot to it. Thanks for breaking that down. There's a lot to unpack there. So, I encourage the attendees, add some questions in there as it relates to you, and we can get to them at the end. So now getting into some fines and penalties. What is the risk that we're taking on here?
So these are, I guess I'm going to start in two ways. We don't really know what enforcement looks like yet. We don't have the data. We do know that the outdoor heat rule enforcement has probably been the second or third highest cited, most frequently cited standard, year over year since its implementation. We would expect there to be a lot in the indoor heat area as well. And we have seen Cal OSHA come out and issue seriouses, and in one case, one willful for outdoor heat. But you could be looking at just on a complaint or a heat illness, just in fees, easily over $20,000 just in citations. Now, if you add sort of direct costs, impacts as well to your business from the heat illness, for instance, and then indirect costs from overtime and loss of productivity, a single citation event could easily cost the business about, upwards of $50,000. And when you start thinking about profit margins for retail and restaurants, I mean, you're looking at $500,000 potential in sales you're going to have to generate just to cover the cost. So these are real business impacts and need to be taken seriously.
Wow. All right, so we do have a track record of some fines being issued. Do you want to, give us an overview of that?
Yeah, I mean, these cases are all in the public record here. I'm not going to get into the individual facts of them, but what we have seen is we have seen consistent enforcement of indoor and outdoor heat, even pre-rule throughout the last decade, and it's on the uptick, right? So we're going to discuss later, even the number of employee complaints has gone up year over year. Cal OSHA historically probably reaches about 4,000 to 5,000 heat inspections in a given heat season. We expect a larger share of those to go over towards indoor heat. A lot of times in the cases I have seen, both in the division and in defense, everything starts out with the one issue, which is the employer has no way to demonstrate that they have any idea how hot it is in the workplace. And with that sort of knowledge vacuum or lack of data, the citations flow, the inspection flows. But what they all have in common has been a moment where there's just a lack of data, there's a lack of knowledge, and there's either a complaint or an illness event, and we don't find out how hot it is inside that area until Cal OSHA shows up. And you don't want that to be your first measurement, to be the inspector with the thermometer in their hand.
Yeah, definitely not. Proactive is the way to go. All right, so we've outlined some of the rules, the regulations, the fines that are starting to take shape. So let's bring it home a little bit and talk about what does this matter to restaurants and retailers. I can see that we have some folks from both restaurant and retailers online here. So what does it mean to them? Zach, do you want to take the lead on that?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Because, as Eric just said, because of the way the regulations are written, it's impossible to show compliance after an incident has occurred if you don't have the data. So this kind of means you must have proactive, continuous monitoring and compliance measure in place. You need to have temperature tracking and employee protections before an issue arises. And then once a violation does occur, it's almost too late to retroactively implement those measures or provide the adequate documentation, leaving businesses quite vulnerable. As Eric said, there's been a 400% increase in heat-related illnesses since 2024. And all this stuff is on top of already a very challenging environment for businesses in California that have seen labor costs rise, energy costs have rise 30 to 40% over the last 5 years. We're seeing major increases in the cost of HVAC replacement, HVAC servicing, primarily due to inflation and the ongoing, tariff situation. So running it, multi-site business, retail, it's quite complex and expensive to do so. And this is just another added layer of complexity that needs to be managed.
Right. So, some businesses may operate partially or fully in California. But let's talk about through the United States in general. What does it mean for the different states that might have some things coming or recently activated for the heat illness? Eric, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So the trend is in this space, regulations are continuing to pop up. I know we're sort of in a phase where people are wondering what's going to happen on the federal side. We're not really expecting that heat rule to move forward. The feds have continued their sort of national emphasis on heat during this period, so they will sort of be rolling out with the general duty clause. But state by state, specific regulations are popping up. The initial trends were to focus on outdoor heat, but the new regulations coming out are sort of just heat illness prevention, and they are not specific to indoors or outdoors. We have yet to see whether we're going to have sort of the two-pronged approach we see in California, where there is an outdoor heat rule and an indoor heat rule. But certainly the trend is that state by state, we're going to see more of these rules. Temperature thresholds may vary, but we seem to be settling in on the mid 80-degree range for indoors. But you may be caught in a situation, particularly on in the western states. If you have multiple locations, you're going to have different requirements in terms of temperature, and you're going to have to keep track of different data sets in order to ensure compliance state by state. You could sort of imagine needing a chart with all the requirements and to make sure that you can implement a system that will be compliant across all jurisdictions. One thing they all have in common, again, is this is data driven. It's your ability to demonstrate that the real-time interior exposures to heat in your workplace. So that's going to remain the same no matter what jurisdiction you're in. So being able to harness data and for purposes of compliance and to demonstrate compliance, that's going to be the same whether we're in Washington, California, or Nevada.
Yeah, and it seems like there's more to come too. Although California is known for its policy making, I think there is a lot more to come.
Agreed.
So, how are people managing with this? We've talked a little bit about the parameters of the heat illness, but like how are people current state dealing with this? Zach, I think you have a pretty good understanding of this. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So we hear from our customers at different places like trade shows where we're on site with the customer, and these are could be facility managers, or mechanical contractors, or sustainability managers. They're asking how can we comply, and these are kind of the three most common ways that I'm hearing about, and I'll cover all three, and there's some nuances to all of them. So the very first one is manual monitoring and reporting options. This one's pretty simple. You get a store manager to record the temperature on a regular basis, either on a paper log or another digital means like an app. You can also buy a remote or wireless temperature sensor that will record the data to an app or a centralized cloud platform. And then lastly, you can use a remote temperature sensor that is part of a more broader energy management platform. I'll cover each option in more detail because there are some new launches to the compliance and some edge cases you should be aware of when you're kind of selecting a compliance solution. Yeah, so starting off with the manual temperature monitoring, which on the surface, it seems cheapest. You don't have to buy anything, although there's some real hidden costs. Technically, you only need to record the temperature when you're above the 82-degree threshold. However, this means that your employees on site need to be aware of the temperature if it goes above that, and then take the monitoring action. I have heard of some companies who are getting store managers to log the temperature every 30 minutes, regardless of the store if it's too hot or too cold, just to get, employees in the rhythm and habit of recording the temperature. Obviously, you don't pay your staff to record temperature all day, so there's a real cost to doing so. As Eric has mentioned, the temperature needs to be recorded in every area where an employee can work. So this could be a kitchen, back office, break room, and that means you can't rely on just the thermostat in a manager's office. So depending on the environment which the temperature needs to be recorded in multiple places, you are recording the temperature in multiple places, multiple times per day, which really add up. Another issue is if there's a particularly busy period or there's an emergency either at the store with the employee. Recording temperature is not top of mind for most people, so you really risk having gaps in your data, leaving you kind of exposed to compliance vulnerabilities. Um, and then, as Eric mentioned, an investigation from Cal OSHA may be many months later after initial claim, so there's always a risk that the paper copy goes missing or hard to produce in a timely manner. And then lastly, if we go back one slide, Kyle.
Jump
All
the gun.
good. It's all good. Above that 82 degrees threshold, you must measure more than just the temperature. You also need to measure the humidity to calculate the heat index, which is a complex calculation that can't be kind of done on the fly. So you need to measure humidity as well, which makes manual reporting, quite difficult.
Mhm.
So kind of one step above manual reporting is, using remote temperature sensors. Like I said before, some things to keep in mind when you're selecting a temperature sensor is the one that can measure humidity, so you can get that heat index calculation ideally done automatically for you in the reporting. You'll likely need more than one sensor to be placed around the building, which could limit the type of sensor you have. If you obviously don't want to have a ugly cable and you have a really nice storefront, so you might need a wired or a wireless sensor depending on your needs. If you do choose a wireless sensor, you also want to ensure the sensor has a long battery life. Consumer grade sensors you would find on Amazon typically only last a year or two before the battery needs to be replaced. And then if it doesn't get replaced, you're paying someone to go out and replace it. Or worse, no one replaces it, and now you're not monitoring the temperature, and now you have compliance gaps. So commercial grade sensors like the one we supply at Mesa HQ, they have 10-year battery lives, which really makes that total cost of ownership quite low. You also want to know how the temperature sensor records the data in the event of a power or network outage. Hardwire sensors and thermostats will likely be powered off in a power outage, which is kind of the worst case for that to happen. If your HVAC system's down and your sensor is also down, that's when temperature's probably rising, and that's when you need to record the temperature. So you should look for a temperature sensor that has a wireless data backfill. So if power or connectivity is lost, the temperature will be recorded, and when the sensor connects back online, the temperature is sent back to the cloud platform automatically.
Yeah, it seems like compliance is needed at the worst of times, right? When the restaurant kitchen gets the busiest and hottest during peak hours and there's no
Yeah.
time to deal with that, or there's a power outage and there's too many things to deal with. So reactive is not the way to go.
No.
Sorry, let's go on to energy management system.
Great. Now, finally, and I'm obviously a little biased here, but I think the best solution is monitoring compliance with the energy management system. So your first line of defense is going to be getting a thermostat that you can control remotely to make sure the temperature of the store or restaurant is set to a predefined temperature. And then also having lockouts on that thermostat to ensure local staff are not setting it too high or too low. This gives you, some buffer between the danger zone where you must be monitoring the temperature. Some energy management systems on the market do have wireless sensors that can be integrated into your platform. The last thing people need is another login to manage, so it's always nice having it part of your one platform. Like I started off the call, a lot of the energy management providers, they are partners, and they are designing their solutions to be aware of this regulation. So you should lean on them to help you comply, whether it's through, reports that have been custom made for California, ensuring the data is being maintained for 12 months, you're not wiping your data too prematurely. Um, and the last one for, if you're a multi-operator, is ensuring that your compliance tools are implemented consistently across all of your sites. This is really going to help ensure that you have no compliance anxiety if you manage more than one site in California. Also, and really the last one would be customized alerts that can be set up, that can be sent alerts to the right people at the right time. You can imagine a scenario where your energy management system detects that the thermostat, the HVAC system is failing to meet the set point, then you can get an alert to roll a truck, gives you, those precious hours to implement a solution before it becomes a problem.
Great.
And then lastly, bring it back to like the main topic of the webinar of turning risk into ROI. Given the high bar of ensuring compliance within California and potential fines for failing to do so, getting an energy management system can not only ensure compliance, but also drive, huge ROI through energy efficiency and some other savings. For a typical retailer or restaurant location in California, energy costs can be as high as 15, 20,000 per year. With a solution like Mesa HQ, which can set back the temperature of your HVAC unit at night when it's not needed, that can realize in savings of 20 to 30%. If you have 50 sites in California, that can be easily $200,000 in savings per year just in your energy efficiency. Moving beyond that, there's other savings of having to reduce the number of unnecessary truck rolls. There's reduced labor for investigating temperature issues, which we hear are the most common issues for facility managers to deal with. And the right solution can help extend equipment life as you're reducing the wear and tear that's going on your HVAC system through less usage. And then finally, happier employees. Store comfort is critical to employees and their overall well-being. Store issues related due to temperature is the most common facility manager complaint that we hear. And so comfortable staff means they're higher engaged, they're more productive, and there's like less turnover. So that's lots of savings there as well. So while California is lots of regulations, they also have a lot of incentives and rebates, particularly for reducing energy waste. There are many rebates and incentives for customers looking for energy management solutions, and Misa is happy to help you kind of navigate that landscape.
Yeah, we'll share out a link to the California government site where they have some of that because there's some thresholds to eligibility and things like that. But we'll let you make those decisions with your accountants. But we'll share that out shortly. So just to wrap things up a little bit, we want to make sure that you have the resources to be successful. So let's just do an overview of what Mesa HQ provides, and then following Nixon Peabody as well to help you in this relatively new endeavor of heat illness.
Yeah, I'll start. So at Mesa HQ, we're a smart and scalable energy management solution. It comes in a box, which really means it comes pre-provisioned, pre-programmed for your specific site, which makes savings super easy to make it easy to deploy, easy to get savings, and just easy ROI. At Mesa, we designed and deploy plug-and-play connected devices that give multi-site operators visibility and control they need to reduce operational costs and chaos. If you're looking for a partner to roll out a connected compliance solution, we're happy to connect after the webinar or anytime. And then
Great. Eric, do you want to give us an overview of how Nixon Peabody can help?
Sure. So our workplace safety team is myself and my colleague, Melissa Peters. She was also a former Cal OSHA attorney. So we're sort of unique in that dual perspective in terms of practice groups. We assist employers of all sizes and all industries with compliance issues. We're here to answer questions. We're here to take a look at compliance plans, and we can sort of go through them and stress test them with putting our former enforcement hats on to identify issues and sort of come up with practical solutions so you're ready for the OSHA inspection. I always like to say your OSHA inspection has already begun. And what I mean by that is the preparation and the documentation you have now is going to mean everything later. So we're here to assist then. And of course, if an inspection does happen, we can guide you through the appeal process, hopefully with an intent to get you to an effective and quick resolution. But if we got to fight, we're here to do that too.
Yes, a proactive nature is better, better risk mitigator, better financial responsibility, but sometimes it happens. All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to open it up to some questions here. Let me check the box. We've got a couple. Are there any target industries? I mean, I know it's still early days for fines for indoor, but do we know if there are anything that's more susceptible in one industry or location than another?
Yeah, so Cal OSHA, in terms of if they're going out to sort of enforce a rule, there's sort of two areas they will look at. One of them, of course, is, high risk industries, and the other is any industry with a, perceived vulnerable population. In this case, our Venn diagram is probably going to land us pretty squarely on kitchens and warehouses and probably manufacturing. And those are the, at least in press releases, the target areas that Cal OSHA has identified. So in terms of depending where you are, we may see sweeps in an indoor context in much the same way we see in agriculture targeting certain areas. I mean, I know in the restaurant area, we've already, the Labor and Employment Task Force, which is sort of multi-agency, has swept through kitchens in the past. I would expect that that target will remain there for the division. So those industries in particular. I will also add retail to the extent that you have any type of loading dock operation in the back. And a lot of this may also be complaint driven. We've talked about the complaints going up. And what's going to happen is, in most instances, is you're going to get a letter saying you got a complaint about indoor heat. And then you're going to need to respond, and you're going to need documentation of what the temperature is in your response. So again, having data at your fingertips is going to help across the board in any circumstance, whether they show up on a sweep or whether you get a letter.
Great, thank you. And we've got one more. It's asked, how many temperature sensors are required according to the regulations? I guess that's with an automated system or semi-automated system.
I guess I can say the regulation doesn't require any number of sensors. It doesn't even take a position on how you monitor the temperature. You're just required to implement the reg when the temperature where an employee works hits the threshold. So, I'll let Zach sort of speak to, how your system can work to, to do that, but the reg doesn't require any specific number.
Okay.
We do see though that a lot of our clients, they do need remote temperature sensing options because there could be many different factors that contribute to different temperatures throughout the building. You could have a big glass showroom, and then that area could be quite different than temperature than another back room. Similar to a kitchen with lots of cooking going on, lots of bodies, that temperature in that area could be hotter than in many others. So yeah, so no requirements on the regulations, but think about different areas and different ways that temperature can fluctuate within a site. Even a smaller site, less than 10,000 square feet, which is kind of our sweet spot. Temperature can vary quite wildly between different parts of the building.
Yeah, thanks, gents. There's some good call outs there. I mean, if you think of, inside your store is at one temperature, but if you think about, like you said, a glass window, a south-facing window could easily vary 10 degrees. Loading dock, kitchens, there's probably a lot more, but definitely a basis to have some multiple sensors and heat control in different areas. So that was all the questions that we had. Just double checking here. Yep. So thank you both and all the attendees for joining us. Really appreciate that. As mentioned, we will prepare the recording in due time. So with any luck this afternoon, we might be able to share out a link. If not, you'll be seeing that tomorrow. Share with your colleagues that may find this interesting, and do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. I'll pull up the slide with the contact information for both Zach and Eric. We're here for you. We didn't do this to hear ourselves speak, so please reach out and let us know how we can be of assistance to you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Kyle.
you.
Bye-bye.